When we go through the course of our life, we accrue things, assets, property, possessions, cars, money, all that sort of thing. And let's face it, when we end up at the end of our lives and we're brown bread, we're not going to need that stuff anymore. So where do we pass it to? Inevitably, it's our children or other relatives. Now, there's a very unfortunate thing that comes into play with all this. Inheritance tax. And if you don't plan for things after you're not here anymore properly, then the government can take quite a nice big slice of the pie. It appears now that HMRC are catching out more and more that seem to be missing out. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Bit of a morbid subject, granted, but one that needs covering just to tip people off. It appears that HMRC are catching more and more people out where they're not paying the proper inheritance tax on, assets and homes and everything that they inherit from their loved ones of the past. And, they handed out £326 million for inheritance tax payment errors in 2021-2022. That's £326 million worth of bills to people, which probably didn't see them coming or didn't even know. Have a listen to this couple of minute article from GB News and let me know what you think about it.
Going through the grief of a loved one, and then the realisation that huge amount of what that person has accrued throughout their lifetime is then owed to HMRC. And we're talking not just their properties. I think it's anything over the value of, is it £325,000?
Nothing in terms of properties these days.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the average price of a home is, but, it's around there. But also stuff like Granny's rings. All up for grabs.
Yeah, up for grabs. Indeed, it is. It's interesting that a poll shows that this is the most hated tax. When you think actually how many estates pay it, it's under 5%. But you're right, there's a sense of unfairness. I've worked really hard all my life. Why should I have to give? And you're right, above £325,000, it's 40%. That is a huge whack. There is an additional allowance if you leave your home to direct descendants, so you can get 175,000 extra. So you're looking at £500,000, but still, as you rightly point out, in some areas of the country, that won't even cover your home. And what's happening at the moment is HMRC are catching more and more people out. And one of the things that is catching them out are other assets. So what do we mean by assets when you leave it over this figure of 325,000? Well, of course, it's property. It's anything like investments, money, but also possessions. And that can include Granny's ring, absolutely, an expensive painting, a vintage car, anything that's worth some money. And more people are being caught out by this. And I think one of the reasons is HMRC invested very heavily in a affectionately termed snooper computer about a decade ago. So they're much better at catching people out, but also more people are being caught within the net of inheritance tax because it's been frozen for so long, the threshold. It will continue to be frozen. More and more people being dragged in and just don't understand the complex rules.
I'm just looking, Georgie, the average house price in the UK now is a little under 300,000. If the house price inflation continues, that means soon virtually everybody with an average house will be caught by inheritance tax. And I can remember being in the Tory conference way back in 2007 when George Osborne, the Shadow Chancellor, said, "This is a promise. We will raise the inheritance tax threshold to £1 million. Another broken promise.
Well, I should point out, look, firstly, if you pass it over to a spouse or a civil partner, then generally there's no inheritance tax to pay. And also you double it up. So if you are a married couple, then you'll have 2 times that £500,000. So technically they could say, yes, it is £1 million that you could pass on. But look, I would suggest to anyone, if you're in this situation, I mean, firstly, just, as you pointed out quite rightly, it's a very traumatic time for families. The last thing they want to do is have a letter from HMRC.
What an absolute minefield, wouldn't you say? Let me know what you think. And more importantly, have a good weekend. Toodaloo.